Hey guys, welcome back to NFL Addict. Sorry, I forgot what my new name was for a second. If you didn't know, I just changed my name. But anyways, this is going to be NFL Week 17 score prediction. This is the final score predictions for the regular season. Oh, the playoffs are almost here, and yes, I will be doing wild card, divisional round, conference championship, and Super Bowl predictions. So this is not the last score predictions for this year, but it is the last regular season. So let's go ahead and get started. So there will be no Thursday night football. All of the games will be on Sunday, ending with Sunday night football, from what I have heard. Unless they change anything in the next couple of days, there will be no Monday night football either. So it's just going to be a bunch of Sunday games and Sunday night football between Washington and the Eagles. So this is going to be a Sunday 1 p.m. game. Let's go ahead and get started. Lions, Vikings. This one actually is going to be pretty. In my opinion, I think it's going to be a pretty good game. Yeah, the Lions last week, they got absolutely demolished by the Buccaneers, but they were without Matthew Stafford for most of that game. And you look at the Vikings, they are now out of the playoffs. They have nothing really to play for. And I think in the end it'll be a pretty good game, but you do have to look and see what the Lions defense did last week, which was allow 47 points, and that's never any good. And the Vikings, their strength has always been on offense. They didn't look too good these past couple of weeks, and with Dalvin Cook out, that is definitely going to, harm their chances. And yeah, they did. Their defense did allow 52 points last week. So these are two defenses that played pretty badly last week, and the Vikings offense is really weakened. So I think it'll be an insanely close game, but I'm still going to give the edge to the Vikings. Now, this is definitely a game that the Lions could easily, jump on top of. But as of right now, I do still think the Vikings get the win and jump and finish the season 7-9. Meanwhile, the Lions, I think they finish 5-11. I'm not exactly sure. Next up, we have the Buccaneers and the Falcons. This one, the Falcons always seem to, their defense always seems to play pretty well. We saw last week they held the Chiefs, 17 points. They held Patrick Mahomes, I think, a quarterback rating less than 70. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers, they went out and they absolutely dominated all over the Lions. So these are two teams that are coming off, pretty good games. But the Falcons did lose. Their offense did only put up 14 points. And that's really what we've seen all season. The Falcons defense has normally played really, really well, but that offense has not been able to finish off things. And I think this week, the Buccaneers get the best of them here, 31-19 to jump up to 11-5. Meanwhile, the Falcons fall to 4-12 to end the season. This one was very close to being my lock of the week, but I could definitely see, we've seen the Buccaneers, have some rough games. I could definitely see the Falcons defense, forcing Tom Brady into another, one of his worser games of this season, and maybe the Falcons offense, that does have some weapons, could, do enough. So it's not my lock of the week, but it was very close. Next up, Patriots against the Jets. This one is actually looking to be a really, really good rivalry matchup. You have the Jets, who all of a sudden, these past 2 weeks have looked really well. They've gone from 0-13, and then they've won 2 straight. And meanwhile, the Patriots, they're playing terribly. Last week, they lost 38-9 to the Bills. They had a total, I think, 78 total passing yards with 2 quarterbacks. And yeah, the Patriots, absolutely terrible play. Meanwhile, the Jets, the Jets went out there and played really, really well. Now, a lot of the reason they won last week had to do with the fact that Browns offense really played terribly. Didn't have much to do with the Jets defense. You can kind of tell whether it's an offense playing badly or a defense playing really well. And last week it looked a lot like that Browns offense was just not playing too well, like they expected to win. And I think that's kind of the same thing that happened with the Rams. But the Patriots walk in here, and they do still have a really good defense. It's had some off games like last week, but they're going up against a Jets team that is way worse than the Bills. Even in those 2 win streaks, they look way worse than the Bills. I do still think the Patriots do pull off a win here and move up to, I think, 7-9. Meanwhile, the Jets will fall to 2-14 in the season. I'm just saying the final, records, just so you can kind of like get a grip on how these, because you 6-9, you don't really know how good teams are. But when you hear like a 7-9 team, it kind of gives you an idea, if that makes any sense. Next up, I do like how in Week 17 it's all divisional matchups. They've always done that for as long as I can remember. It's always divisional matchups. And this is Bills against the Dolphins. The Bills last week, as I was talking about earlier, destroyed the Patriots 38-9. It was a massive blowout. We basically saw how good the Bills can play. Meanwhile, the Dolphins, they went out there last week. They got a slim victory, 26-25 over the Raiders, in one of the best games we've had in a while. Or not in a while, but it was definitely the best game last week. It was a really, really good game, especially those last 4 or 5 minutes. And, I think this one, the Dolphins, they'll have Tua in. Ryan Fitzpatrick is on COVID, so, no Fitzmagic in this one, but Tua will be in there, and I do think, this will be a pretty good matchup. Definitely could. I mean, the Dolphins are still playing for a playoff spot. They are 10-5, and they could fall out of the playoffs this week. The AFC playoff race is crazy. We have 4 teams that are 10-5 vying for 3 spots. So we're going to see a 10-6 or 11-5 team. So we're either going to see any 10-6 team or we're going to see an 11-5 Colts team, because that would just be insane. But I do think in the end that the Bills get the win here, 35-30, to bump up to, I think, 13-3. Last time I heard, I do not think they are sitting anybody. I know there are a few teams that are sitting players, and when we get to them, I will talk about them. But as of right now, the Bills, I don't think, have announced that they are sitting any players. The Dolphins also, of course, they're fighting for a playoff spot, have not. I do think they get the loss here, which means that they'll be, vying for another team to lose to get into the playoffs. Next up, Browns against the Steelers. This is when we start getting into the teams that are sitting players. Ben Roethlisberger will be sitting in this one. It was going to be a really good game, with Ben Roethlisberger in there, but when they're sitting a few players, obviously they don't want, any chance of Ben Roethlisberger. He's already pretty old. They don't want him getting hurt or anything during this game. That's why any team sits players. But, so the Browns in this one, their offense played pretty badly last week, but looking at, almost every game of the rest of this season, they've played really well. Okay, sorry. For a second, I thought my mic was in my shirt. And their defense has not been their best, spot, but that's kind of the same that's kind of like the opposite of the Steelers. The Steelers' offense has been pretty bad, and their defense has been their bright spot. And while they did get the win last week, that first half wasn't good at all against the Colts. So I definitely think, this one could go in the Steelers' favor, but with, Mason Rudolph sitting out, I don't think Mason Rudolph gets revenge for that Myles Garrett incident last year. I think the Browns get the 10-point win here, 38-28. Could see the Steelers, win. Mason Rudolph, obviously, he didn't do too bad last year with them, so definitely could see the Steelers pull out a win here and go 13-3, but I think the Browns get the win, jump up to 11-5, and clinch playoffs. Next up, we have the Giants versus the Cowboys. This one is actually going to be a very, very important matchup in the NFC East, because if Washington loses against the Eagles, the winner of this matchup will be in the playoffs, and I think it's crazy to see how the Cowboys have come so far. They were 3-9, I'm pretty sure, at one point. They've won 3 straight. Now they are right back in the thick of things. You've seen how well they played last few weeks. They have looked insanely dangerous on offense, and the defense has really began stepping it up. They've basically, everything that could have gone right has kind of gone right for the Cowboys. Meanwhile, for the Giants, they've kind of gone on a big collapse. They were on a 4 or 5 game winning streak, I don't remember, and they were playing really, really well, and now these past couple of weeks, they've looked pretty bad. They got blown out by the Ravens last week, and it's not looking too good. So, in my opinion, I think the Cowboys get a nice win here, 34-20. I think that defense, the Giants have really not been able to play good offense all season. Even in that 4-game winning streak, it was normally their defense helping them win really low-scoring games. I think in this one, the Cowboys offense goes out there and gets them this win, 34-20, and depending on what I predict the Sunday Night Football game to be, for all we know, the Cowboys can end up in the playoffs. I think it's, either the Cowboys or Washington, because the Eagles have already been eliminated. Next up, Bengals against the Ravens. The Ravens have gotten hot at the right time. They were looking pretty bad earlier in the season. People were saying, oh man, what happened? They were such a good team last year. Boom, all of a sudden they're 10-5, looking like a really good team. Their offense has caught fire. Their defense has stepped it up once again. And now they're going against the Bengals team that the same thing has kind of happened for them. They have Brandon Allen at quarterback. However, they did just win 2 straight against the Steelers and the Texans. That offense has really stepped it up. That defense hasn't been very good, which is a big red flag, but that offense has stepped it up against the Texans. They looked really, really good against the Texans. I don't know what happened against the Steelers. That one was a really odd game. We always see that. They've kind of looked the same in a lot of their games, except that Steelers game. Last week it was kind of what we've seen. Their offense kind of stepped it up a lot. I don't know. I do still think that the Ravens get the win here, 37-26. And while, yes, I have predicted bigger score margins, I am most assured of this game, so it is my lock of the week. Like the Cowboys win against the Giants, I had that at 34-20. However, I think it is more likely that the Giants win than the Bengals win. So a lot of people, they get kind of confused in my comment section on, hey, why do you? I mean, this one was only an 11.1 for the Ravens when you have a 14.1 to the Cowboys. Why wasn't that lock of the week? It's not point margin; it's how sure I am, and this is my lock. I do not think there's a chance that the Ravens lose and come out of the playoffs. I think that they win and clinch. Next up, Colts versus the Jaguars. This is a rematch from Week 1, and I like it when the NFL does this. We've seen a lot recently where, even with the Colts, we saw them play the Texans 2 times in 3 weeks. They've done it a lot where they've had teams play divisional rivals really, really close together. I like it when they spread it out with the Colts and the Jaguars. Washington and the Eagles are doing this with a lot of different teams. The Jaguars in Week 1, they beat the Colts. They have lost out the rest of this season, and they've already clinched the first overall pick, so they have nothing to play for except for pride. They have nothing to lose for. They just play for pride. The Colts, meanwhile, they have to win, and they have to win, and I think they need one of the other 4 teams that are 10-5 to lose. Let me just kind of make you understand the AFC situation. There are 4 teams that are 10-5 and are right now vying for 3 positions, like I said earlier. The 3 teams that are already in the playoff picture, which are, if I can remember, the Dolphins, the Ravens, and I forgot the other team. Oh yeah, and the Titans, I'm pretty sure. No, I'm not sure. Anyways, the Colts are the team that are out right now. They are not currently in the playoffs. So they need to win, and they need one of the other 3 teams to lose. Meanwhile, the 3 teams that are already in just need to win, and they clinch. So the Colts right now, this is a must-win game. I cannot say must-win game. And they're going against the Jaguars, which, again, they're 1-14. That's pretty terrible. They've looked. It's not like they've been stepping it up like the Jets or anything. They're not, playing good at all. They've just played like a 1-14 team, and I don't think that really changes here. I think the Colts get the best of them, 30-21. This was another one that was very, very close to being my lock of the week, but I kept it at this because that Colts offense has been iffy in some games, and that Jaguars team, obviously, we saw it in Week 1, but that was a while back. They do have Gardner Minshew in this one. I don't know. I just feel like there's a bigger chance of the Jaguars winning than the Bengals. Sorry about that, Jaguars fans. Next up, sorry about that, Bengals fans. Next up, Texans against the Titans. The Texans, what happened? They're 4-11. They went 10-6 last year. It completely collapsed over the offseason, and now they're 4-11. They just lost to the Bengals 37-31 last week. Their offense did play really well last week. This is a bright spot no one really talks about, is how good that Texans offense managed to play last week. And with a Titans team that isn't necessarily known for their defense, I think the Texans do have a chance to, get some good points up in this one. However, that Titans offense is going up against a team that just let the Bengals offense score 37. So I didn't think the Titans with, Derrick Henry, who didn't actually do much last week. Speaking of the Titans, they got blown out last week, 40-14, one of their worst games of the season. So if they play like that again this week, I definitely think there's a big chance that the Texans win. But right now, just looking at all the other 14 games that we've played so far, I think the Titans get the win here, 35-27. I think it could be close. I think the Texans could win here and go 5-11. Obviously, they do not. You can say a lot of teams' fans, whenever their team loses a lot of games at the end of the season, can say, hey, they were tanking. I'm a Washington fan. I did it last year whenever they lost their last 2 games really close. I said, I think they're just tanking. Well, you can't say that for the Texans because they traded their pick to the Dolphins. So this is just a Texans team that really needs to win here to get some pride. If that made any sense, yeah, I think the Titans win. Next up, Rams versus the Cardinals. The Rams, they are not sitting players, but from what I've heard, Jared Goff, they're not sitting these guys, but I think Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp, for whatever reason, will not be in this game. Now, I could be wrong. I could be, a complete and total idiot. But from what I've heard, I'm pretty sure they're injured or something. They will not be in this game. So, the Rams, they're definitely really weakened, and they have not clinched playoffs yet. I'm pretty sure if they lose and the Bears and the Cardinals both win, so if the Cardinals win this one, so if the Rams lose and the Bears win, then the Rams will be out of the playoffs. So this is, it's pretty crazy. The Cardinals, they are right now not in the NFC playoff picture. However, if they win, they are in. If they win, no matter what happens in any other games, they are in. And let me just talk about the game. So the Rams, obviously without Cooper Kupp, one of their best weapons, and obviously without Jared Goff, they'll be pretty let down. However, they do still have that top tier defense that the Rams have had all season going against the Cardinals offense that has kind of fell off towards the end of the season. So I definitely think the Rams defense could, as you're fighting for the playoffs, I definitely think the Rams defense could do enough to possibly let their offense kind of carry them to a win, but I just can't see that happening right now. I think the Cardinals get a nice 4-point win here, 23-19. If Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp were in, it would be a Rams win, no-brainer. But with, they did just with Jared Goff and with Cooper Kupp, they did only manage to score 9 points last week. So, whatever. I think the Cardinals win 23-19. Sorry if that made no sense.